You are around the world. I am Marcus Holmes. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good afternoon, good evening, depending upon where you are around the world. I am Marcus Holmes, the HR Passion Guy, and I'm bringing you another gratefulness journey everyday moment to encourage you, inspire you, awaken you on the journey for gratefulness and on a path for more grateful living. And today, I want to talk a little bit about overcoming tragedy. Now, in the traditional sense, people hear tragedy and they think of um, an event of the size of epic proportion. They think of, and that is correct. One way to look at tragedy is an event that has happened that has is of epic proportion and impacts a lot of people. War could be a tragedy. Um, what's happening to and in Ukraine, what has happened in Newton, Connecticut, what's happened at Sandy Hook, what's happened in Columbine, what's happened in many different places. I even think of a tragedy where there was an airplane here in Detroit at Metro Airport that crashed, and there was one lone survivor. And those tragedies tend to impact our lives, right? We mourn the loss of children in the shooting or of um, patrons that were shot up in a bar in Florida. We think of them, but maybe not a personal connection to them, though we feel wholly connected as humans of this world's community to suffering and loss. But I want you to think about the tragedies that you can say you're personally connected to. Maybe there has been a death, a sudden death, that was a tragic loss for your family. Maybe someone was violently taken away or suddenly taken away. Maybe there was a serious accident that occurred in your life or that of a family member or coworker where you were personally touched by the person or persons involved. Maybe in your life, a tragedy for you could be the dissolution of your marriage or the foreclosure of your home or the impact of COVID on you or family members. It's an event that happens that brings pain and suffering to you over which you feel little control. And I want you to think about that for a moment because if you're here listening to this, not only did you make the wake up list, you are likely overcoming that tragedy. And sometimes, if you're like me, overcoming hasn't always felt like overcoming. It felt like going through. But you are overcoming tragedy if you are in forward motion in any area of your life, even if in one area you feel stuck or stagnant. Because forward motion is not relegated to just one area of your life. It is, you could be moving forward in one other area of your life, which can help to build a path, a network for you to move forward in another area. It is almost this symbiotic neural network that your brain builds these new networks. All the time, it can build new networks, new paths where there is some stagnant area or path. Your brain, through habits, through um, life, helps to build pathways, other ways to connect your memory to your cognitive state, your memory to your ability to think critically, your memory to your ability to put things on automaticity, to put certain tasks on autopilot, right? And so this moving forward provides through one area of your life, other areas of your life to be able to move forward. And so I wanted you to think about that this morning. And I wanted you to think about the gratefulness journey every day because part of my journey in the book and in my life talks about these tragic things that have occurred to me, happened to me, some would say happened through me, that in one area of my life, grief had me stopped, stagnant. And there are times I feel like there isn't as much forward motion as it relates to those tragic things that have happened, sudden losses, things that took me by surprise, that caused me great pain, great suffering, that at points, moving forward in just one area, one iota, helped to open up a pathway to move forward through this journey. But it's an important journey. I'm having all right, looks like we're rectifying it. Okay. Sometimes it's an arduous journey going through grief, and it is not linear. There are times you feel like you're at ground zero in the grief, whether you feel it's a tragedy or not. But I wanted today to, of course, sometimes we think of tragedy and we think of the genre, right? Uh, the genre of tragedy is um, from the Greek word, the goat's song, which is interesting. But the drama of tragedy, tragedy as a drama, I better say, has certain elements to it, right? It has the exposition where it's really setting up the information and giving you cues about what's going to happen, right? Then there's the rising actions or action that leads, that takes you through this drama and it gets to a climax. And then there's what's called a falling action and then the conclusion. And you could use that as a way to build a path to overcoming tragedy if you decided that that was one of the methods. Of course, I wouldn't say, hey, don't, have someone help you with this. Uh, have a counselor, have a therapist, have a support system, definitely when you're overcoming tragedy. But you might decide that there are actions in the tragedy that inform you, that are giving you clues to what you can learn, what is coming, what is to be. There are rising actions, events that occur that almost take this tragedy, this pain and suffering to a boiling point where you're like, could it be any worse? What's next? You're at that boiling point when you say that. And getting to that boiling point can bring you much stress and pain because that boiling point's coming to a climax to where, and you could get from rising to climax very quickly in a tragedy, right? Or it can be a long, agonizing path to that climax, which could be death, it could be divorce, it could be foreclosure, it could be anything that is a tragedy that brings you great pain and has um, an epic impact on your life, your personal life, your professional life, right? And then from that climactic point of the event, the death, the layoff, there's a falling action, right? You can no longer maintain life as it was. So now life starts to appear to decline because you're no longer married if it's a divorce. You're no longer living in that home. You're no longer at that company with your coworkers who called you family and community. That's the falling action, the depressive state, the um, could be any number of things. Gaining weight, you could gain weight as a result of that. You could lose weight as a result of that. So there could be some physiological change, right? But a number of things. You can no longer be able to afford the things that you were able to afford. That's the falling action. And I want you to sit in those because those are a reality that you may experience. But it's also important to know that the conclusion, you get to play a role and how you overcome tragedy and what the final say is. After you do some raw introspection, there are ways to learn from a tragedy that help you overcome it. And I always tell people learning is really leaning with an R. You lean on the skills of others by reading, repeating what you've read, and reinforcing it. And that's how you learn. You lean on the skills of somebody else knows more than you and I in something. And sometimes it's life, right, that knows more, and life is teaching you a lesson. So you have to lean in to read what life is showing you, repeat it so that it is cogitating in your own understanding in your own words. I say don't just write it down. I say read it aloud, repeat it, and then reinforce it. What is it that you're learning that you can put to use? And so I believe in overcoming tragedy that one of the things you can do to put to use is shape your perspective, because you can go into your life and any given day you could say, I'm having a bad day, I'm having a tragic existence, I'm having a tragic moment, this happened to me, whatever that is. As it could be something very small as the traffic was backed up, or it was an accident, which could be very big, the coffee was cold, right? Not to trivialize that, right? um, the interview didn't go well. You could say everything that could go wrong did go wrong in a given day. But your perspective, you might consider that the day before that, and maybe even the day after, may have been the opposite. They may have been uneventful in that regard of negative forces or things that you consider to be negative. They may have also had positive things that happened. So, how could you shape your perspective so that the negative that you experience is relegated to the course of a day? That this too, as monumental as it is in the moment, isn't the entirety of the moment. It isn't the entirety of life. Now, that's not an easy conclusion to come to, but it is an important one because your perspective shapes how you will overcome tragedy. It does not disregard that you have experienced tragedy, it puts it in context to the overall aspect, facet, component of your life. Perspective is an important part of overcoming tragedy. Actions. Actions are an important part of tragedy. You've heard that it's life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it. Nearly all of us have important steps to take in our lives resulting of tragedies. Sometimes we allow those circumstances and maybe even pettiness or fear to hold us back. I have learned, and I'm sure you have learned or are learning, that life can change in what they say is a New York minute. So do not let tragedy stop your plans. Do not let it stop you from crafting your destiny. You're en route to destiny, and tragedy is a stoplight. Now, will you watch the stoplight for the signs to go green? And if the light turns green, will you go? You have to take action. Overcoming tragedy takes courage. Takes courage. I think of one of the teachers in the Sandy Hook shooting. I believe her name was Victoria Soto. She was 27 years old, dedicated teacher, and lost her life protecting her students. She was prepared to do the right thing on a moment's notice, is what I want you to take away from that. When you're overcoming tragedy, do you have a preparedness and state of mind to do the right thing on a moment's notice? This will help you to overcome the tragedy. Because in the moment, maybe the right thing for you is to stay sober, to stay vigilant, to prepare contingency plans for what will I do to maintain this status of life, or what do I do to downsize until I could upsize again? And are you prepared to do that in a moment's notice? Are you prepared to move with emotional agility through life's circumstances and situations? Of course, one of the ways to overcoming tragedies is gratefulness. So often we overlook life's most important things until they are lost, which for me, the losing was a deficit, it was the absence of presence. Now, don't get me wrong, I cherished my three siblings, both my parents, but I must admit I could have cherished them more. And their absence reminded me of how much more I could have cherished them. It was then that I realized that I would give everything and almost anything to get them back. But as my mother Princess told me in 2012 so poignantly, I can reserve the right to be wrapped up in what I don't have. And I reserve the right to grieve for as long as I need to. But I must take time to appreciate, to be thankful for and grateful for all of the things that I do have, all of the things I have left: health, people, ideas, safety, most importantly, purpose. These all matter so much that they're worth taking inventory of and being grateful for everything that I have and everyone that I have left. Gratefulness is an important way to overcome tragedy. And then the bonus, I say, is that there's a hidden lesson that's different for all of us, even in the same tragedy. Tragedy is a teacher that has multiple lessons for different audiences in the same experience. Maybe yours in your tragic moment is about living more in the moment, mastering your moments so you can maximize the moments, because life is a series of moments. Maybe the lesson is showing more love to those who remain. Maybe it is having greater care and custody for what and who remains. Whatever it is, never miss an opportunity to learn, to grow, even if it's in the midst of chaos. In kind of a somber way, we can use life's pain as a springboard to grow. We can use life's pain as a lesson to make us stronger, as a memorial for those who have fallen and those whose lives have been lost, where we have experienced the suffering and pain of those losses. That will help us and strengthen us for the journey ahead, because ultimately, as we all grieve, we all will recover. I'm grateful for this opportunity, and I wanted to make sure that as I close out this weekend, that I would share some uh, a little bit opportunity for you to overcome tragedy. And I want to make sure I put the book up, The Gratefulness Journey, every day. What are you doing in the next 30 days to transform your life is available on Amazon. I'm continuing to come on. This is week number 4, I think I'm completing. Week number 5, I'm completing. of re-engaging, reigniting, rediscovering, and awakening people to the gratefulness journey every day. And it also has a byproduct, a dual role, if you will, in that I want people to join me in supporting Autumn Nicole Davis in her gratefulness journey to law school, to the Thurgood Marshall School of Law. All of the proceeds from the sale of the Gratefulness Journey every day, which is available via that QR code, instead of coming to me as the author, will go to Autumn during the next 60 days to help her with sure footing for law school. We're very proud of her. Um, from a little girl, she's always wanted to be an attorney, and she is this much closer to realizing that, and we're so very proud of her. So join me in supporting her by scanning the link and getting your copy, either your ebook or paperback. It's a 70-page read. It does share from my personal losses and grief, my overcoming tragedy through gratefulness, and it shares 3 practices that I hope that you will embody and embrace that will transform your life as it has transformed mine. I am so excited. I appreciate you being here. I hope that you will click share, whether you're watching us on LinkedIn Live or Twitch TV, YouTube events, or Facebook Live. I hope that you will click share and tag someone who you know needs to overcome tragedy. I think the information that I've shared today is of the utmost importance as you go to help to move forward to overcome tragedy, whether you decide to use the basics of the genre of drama to do it, or some of the other information that I've shared. And uh, shouts out to Josh Linkner, some of his work as well that I have shared. And of course, from the Gratefulness Journey, sharing the impact of the work of Brother David Steindl Ross, um, Pandit Dasa, and Jennifer Moss, whose work in happiness science and mindfulness and grateful living have impacted my journey of grateful living and the gratefulness journey greatly. I am grateful to all of them. They have poured indiscriminately, I will say, into my journey, and my journey is forever changed from a time that I was frustrated, angry with what decisions that God was making, a time where I wanted to be more of the authentic center of myself in every area of my life. I found incongruencies in areas where I felt happy and joyous and was great to be around, and in areas where I felt closed and suspicious and cautious of letting people in. The gratefulness journey is helping to smooth out that so that I will live in the center of one, the great authentic center that I am. And it will do the same for you. If you have anger issues, temperamental, if you're frustrated, if you don't get good night's sleep, if you find yourself always into it in relationships, you're arguing with your mate and your spouse, you just can't be content. You can't find contentment in anything. The gratefulness journey is for you. It is for you if you feel like you have room in your life for more gratefulness. I'll be honest, even if you don't, you need to make room, because once you make that little space in your life for gratefulness, the world and all of those rooms open up in ways that you hadn't imagined. I'm Marcus Holmes, the HR Passion Guy. I'm passionate about gratefulness, and I'm passionate about helping people live more to the authentic center of themselves so that what is in the earth school that is meant to be attracted to you can clearly see you, can clearly hear you, and clearly connect with you for the greatness that you've been called to. I hope that you will get the book. I hope that you will share this widely so that we can support Autumn. And I am contemplating continuing this daily gratefulness journey with you each morning, just as a point of inspiration. Some mornings it gets a little tough, but I'm going to keep pushing forward, and we'll see where the gratefulness journey takes us. I hope you will join me on this extraordinary gratefulness journey, and I will see you in the grateful streets of life. Take care.